Dust swirled in the thin air of Zarnak as Captain Jace Foster staggered from the wreckage of his ship, his body protesting against every movement. The metallic tang of his own blood mixed with the acrid scent of burnt metal, reminding him that survival on this forsaken planet would not come easy. The once proud vessel, the Starfire, lay in a twisted heap behind him, its systems lifeless and flickering, a silent testament to his failed escape from the galactic conflict that had spiraled out of control. "Come on, Jace. Pull it together," he muttered, shaking his head as he stumbled forward, his boots crunching on the rocky terrain. Aurora, his AI companion, crackled to life through the comm unit embedded in his helmet. "Captain, environmental conditions are deteriorating rapidly. I recommend seeking shelter immediately," she advised, her calm voice cutting through the chaos of his thoughts. "Right, shelter." Jace wiped sweat and dirt from his brow, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of life or danger. Jagged cliffs loomed in the distance, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. He had no time to mourn the Starfire. Suddenly, a low growl echoed behind him, sending a chill down his spine. Jace pivoted, instinctively reaching for the sidearm strapped to his thigh. The sound intensified, resonating through the ground like thunder. From the haze emerged a hulking figure, its four legs propelling it forward with alarming speed. Eyes glimmered with predatory intent, locked onto him. "Of course, the welcoming committee," he grunted, taking a few cautious steps back. His heart raced as he tried to formulate a plan. "Aurora, any chance you can pinpoint a safe route?" "Analyzing now, Captain. Target approaching rapidly." "You have too long," he interrupted, sprinting towards the cliffs. The alien predator, a sleek, muscular creature with iridescent skin, snarled, baring rows of sharp teeth as it lunged. "Hang on!" Jace shouted, diving for a nearby outcrop just as the beast's claws grazed the ground where he had stood moments before. He felt the wind from its massive body rush past him, stirring up more dust and grit. Scrambling to his feet, he peered back at the creature, his pulse pounding in his ears. "Captain, I have found a potential hiding spot within the cliffs. Recommend immediate relocation." Aurora's voice broke through his panic, offering a lifeline. With a final glance at the beast, now circling with predatory patience, Jace sprinted toward the rocky formation, adrenaline fueling his every step. As he reached the crevice Aurora indicated, he slipped inside, pressing his back against the cold, jagged rock. The predator's growls faded into the distance, leaving only the sound of his ragged breathing. "Status report?" he whispered, heart still racing. "Temporary shelter secured. However, the creature is still in pursuit. Estimated time until discovery is..." Yeah? I get it. Not long." Jace clenched his fists, a flicker of frustration igniting within him. He had faced down enemies more powerful than himself before, but this was different. This planet was a graveyard for the lost and the foolish. He had to think fast. "What about a distraction?" he pondered aloud, glancing around the narrow confines of the crevice. "Can you manipulate any of the ship's systems from here?" "A limited connection is possible, but it requires focus and time. You must create a diversion." A sudden crash echoed outside, drawing Jace's attention. The predator had grown impatient, testing the edges of his hiding spot. The ground shook as it bounded around, leaving him with little choice. "Okay, Aurora. Let's make some noise," he decided, his determination hardening into resolve. "Set off the emergency signal and reroute any residual power to the external speaker. I want this creature's attention." "Understood, Captain. Preparing to execute." Jace took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm as Aurora began her work. The walls of the crevice pulsed with energy, casting eerie shadows that danced against the stone. The moment he felt the first vibration through the rock, he braced himself. He was on a planet filled with alien threats, but for the first time, he was not alone. The tension crackled in the air as he prepared for whatever lay ahead, determined to forge a path to survival. The echoing blare of the emergency signal resonated through the rocky crevice, drowning out the predator's growls as it dashed toward the source of the noise. Jace felt a rush of adrenaline as the creature momentarily paused, disoriented. "Now's your chance, Captain!" Aurora urged, her voice a steady anchor in the rising storm of chaos. Jace steadied his breathing, every heartbeat thudding in his ears. "Right, I'm moving!" He had only moments to seize this opportunity. He pressed himself against the cool stone and ducked low, inching forward. The narrow passage opened up into a larger cavern, dimly lit by phosphorescent fungi clinging to the walls, casting an eerie glow. As he crept further into the cave, he could hear the predator's claws scrabbling against the rock, drawn away by the noise. It was an unsettling sound, like thunder echoing through a canyon, but Jace pushed it aside. He had to focus on what lay ahead. "Aurora, can you give me a scan of the area?" he whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. "Scanning now, Captain. Analysis indicates." "Good," Jace interrupted, not wanting to waste precious seconds. He moved carefully, scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. Stalactites hung like sharpened teeth from the ceiling, and the damp air was heavy with the scent of earth and decay. A flicker of movement caught his eye. He turned sharply, hand instinctively tightening around his weapon. A small, luminescent creature flitted by, its wings leaving trails of bioluminescence in the air. "What the hell?" "Not a threat, Captain. Merely a glowing," Aurora clarified. "However, we should remain alert for larger predators." Jace exhaled slowly, irritation bubbling to the surface. "Thanks for the reassurance," he muttered, his eyes narrowing at the glowing insect. "Let's focus on getting out of here alive." Emerging from the cave, he found himself at the edge of a vast underground chasm. The walls of the chasm glittered with minerals, casting reflections that danced across the rocky floor. In the center, a small stream wound its way through the darkness, the water shimmering like liquid silver. It felt otherworldly, yet eerily peaceful. "Captain, I recommend avoiding the water," Aurora cautioned. "The readings indicate possible toxins." "Great, just what I need," he replied, scanning the landscape. A narrow ledge ran along the chasm's edge, offering a precarious route. "I'll stick to solid ground, thanks." Carefully, he made his way along the ledge, each step echoing through the stillness. The fear of falling into the abyss gnawed at him, but he pushed the thought aside. He needed to get to the other side, where he hoped to find more resources, or at the very least, a way to signal for help. "Captain," Aurora interjected, her tone growing more urgent. "I'm detecting movement on the opposite side of the chasm. Multiple signatures, likely hostile." "Fantastic." Jace paused, peering into the darkness. "How many?" "3 distinct life forms," she replied. "Unknown species. They appear to be communicating." He felt his pulse quicken, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. If they were hostile, he needed to be prepared. He had no backup, and the starfire was beyond reach. "Let's not stick around to find out if they're friendly," he said, shifting his weight and edging further along the ledge. "Any chance of distracting them?" "A distraction could be effective, but—" Before Aurora could finish, the ground trembled beneath him. Rocks shifted, and he felt himself teetering on the ledge. "Shit!" Jace yelped, his arms flailing as he fought to regain his balance. "Captain, brace yourself! You're losing stability!" With a final, desperate push, he lunged forward, grasping at the rocky outcrop as he fell into the chasm. He caught a ledge just in time, the impact sending pain through his arms. Gritting his teeth, he hung there, heart racing as he stared down into the darkness below. "Jace!" Aurora shouted, her voice urgent with fear. "You need to get up! They're coming!" With a surge of adrenaline, Jace hoisted himself up and scrambled to safety. He collapsed against the rock, breathless and rattled. The distant voices of the unknown beings grew louder, echoing through the cavern. "What now?" he whispered, scanning the area for any escape routes. The chasm loomed behind him, a dark abyss, and the mysterious figures were closing in. "Prepare for combat, Captain," Aurora urged. "You may need to defend yourself." The reality of his situation settled in, a palpable weight in his chest. He had fought in battles before, but this was different. He was on alien soil, facing the unknown, with no one to back him up. As shadows flickered at the cave's entrance, Jace readied himself, resolve hardening. No matter what came next, he would confront it head-on. It was time to show them what humanity could do. The figures emerged from the shadows, their forms tall and sinewy, cloaked in the cavern's darkness. Jace crouched low behind a jagged boulder, his breath steady but shallow. His pulse pounded in his ears, matching the rhythmic thrum of Aurora's updates in his earpiece. 3 hostiles closing in fast, Aurora whispered in his ear. No visible weapons, but their movements suggest coordination. Jace's grip tightened on his sidearm, the familiar weight a small comfort in the face of the unknown. He squinted through the gloom, trying to gauge their intentions. They were alien, yes, but were they enemies? Or simply survivors in this forsaken place? Captain, we need a plan, Aurora insisted, her voice calm but urgent. Yeah, I'm working on it, Jace muttered, his mind racing. Fight or flee? He didn't have much intel on these creatures, just their towering silhouettes and the eerie hum of their guttural speech. He inched forward, careful to stay hidden behind the jagged rock, the cool stone pressing against his back. The aliens were close now, close enough for him to make out the dull gleam of their skin, an iridescent sheen that shimmered under the dim light. Their eyes glowed faintly, like distant stars. They moved with a predatory grace, communicating in low clicks and hisses. Jace glanced down at his weapon, his fingers brushing against the trigger. He could take 1 shot, maybe 2, before they overwhelmed him. His thoughts raced, weighing his options. Was this the right moment to strike? Suddenly, the lead alien stopped, lifting its head toward the ceiling of the cavern. The others followed, their gazes snapping upward as if responding to some unseen cue. Jace tensed, his body rigid, waiting for the next move. They've detected something, Aurora whispered. It's not you, there's movement above. Jace's eyes shot upward, following their gaze. Something massive stirred in the shadows overhead. The faint outline of a creature, enormous and hunched, shifted across the ceiling, its many limbs rippling like liquid shadow. His stomach tightened. What in the... Captain? Aurora cut in sharply. That is a subterranean predator. Highly aggressive. We need to leave. Now. The alien trio began to back away, their earlier confidence replaced by a sudden urgency. Jace's instincts screamed at him to follow suit, but his legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot as the creature above began to descend, its limbs unfurling with terrifying grace. The aliens hissed in unison, their fear palpable. One of them darted forward suddenly, heading straight for Jace's position. His heart raced. Had they spotted him, or were they just fleeing in panic? Captain, move! Jace sprang into action, bolting from his cover just as the alien lunged toward the boulder. He dove into a narrow tunnel to the right, his boots skidding against the slick stone floor as the ground trembled beneath the weight of the descending predator. Behind him, the screech of alien voices and the thunderous roar of the beast reverberated through the cavern. Jace didn't stop to look back. He knew what awaited him if he did. Aurora, he gasped, pushing himself harder. How far to the exit? 200 meters, she replied, her voice steady amidst the chaos. Keep moving, Captain. You can make it. Jace could hear the creature's limbs scraping against the rock, the sound closing in behind him. His lungs burned, but he forced himself to run faster, the narrow tunnel twisting and turning with no end in sight. Just as he rounded the next bend, the tunnel opened up, revealing a jagged opening that led outside, a sliver of freedom in the oppressive dark. He sprinted toward it, the light growing brighter with every step. But the predator was close now, its heavy presence almost upon him. With one final burst of energy, Jace dove through the opening, rolling onto the hard ground outside just as the tunnel collapsed behind him. Dust and debris rained down, but the creature was sealed inside, its furious roars muffled by the rock. Panting, Jace lay on the ground, staring up at the night sky. For now, he had survived. But the aliens weren't far behind, and they wouldn't give up the chase so easily. Jace lay sprawled on the ground, the cool night air washing over him like a balm. The darkness enveloped him, but it was the faint rustling of leaves and the distant cries of nocturnal creatures that stirred him back to reality. He pushed himself up, glancing around to find himself in a dense thicket, the alien landscape a stark contrast to the familiar trees of Earth. "Status report, Aurora," he rasped, wiping dirt from his brow. "Systems intact, Captain," she replied, her tone reassuring. "Your vitals are stable. However, you need to regroup before the aliens find a way out." Jace took a deep breath, his senses sharpening. "What about the creatures? Did we lose them?" "Uncertain," Aurora responded. "Their technology is advanced. They could track you?" A chill ran down his spine at the thought. He could already imagine their glimmering eyes hunting for him, relentless and unyielding. He needed to find shelter, somewhere to regroup and strategize. With resolve, Jace rose to his feet and scanned the area. Vines and thick foliage formed a natural barrier, and the only path he could see led deeper into the underbrush. A low growl echoed from the tunnel behind him, reminding him that time was short. "Let's move," he urged, taking the lead. He pushed through the tangled vegetation, every step an exercise in caution. The rustle of leaves and the crunch of twigs underfoot were ominous reminders of his vulnerability. As he forged ahead, Jace's mind raced. The aliens had proven to be cunning and agile, unlike any foes he had encountered. If they could navigate the cavern with such precision, they could easily turn the tide against him if he didn't stay one step ahead. After what felt like hours, Jace stumbled upon a small clearing illuminated by the pale light of twin moons hanging in the sky. In the center stood a massive tree, its trunk wide and gnarled, with low-hanging branches that provided ample cover. Jace ducked beneath its canopy, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers. "Good choice," Aurora noted. "But you'll need to conceal your position further. The aliens could still see you from above." He nodded, quickly scanning the area for anything to help mask his presence. A few scattered rocks and fallen branches would do the trick. As he piled them near the entrance, he caught a flicker of movement at the edge of the clearing. "Did you see that?" he whispered, his heart racing once again. "Negative. I can't detect any." Aurora's voice cut off abruptly. In the dim light, a figure stepped forward from the shadows, and Jace's breath caught in his throat. It was one of the aliens, its tall form towering over him, its shimmering skin glistening like polished silver. Jace instinctively reached for his sidearm, but the alien raised a hand in a placating gesture. "Wait!" it hissed, its voice surprisingly melodic. "I mean no harm." Jace's eyes narrowed as he studied it. "What do you want?" The alien stepped closer, its glowing eyes locking onto his. "You do not belong here. We can help you." "Help?" Jace echoed incredulously. "You were just fleeing from that creature." "Not all of us are your enemy," it said, a hint of urgency in its tone. "The Predator is a threat to both our kinds. If you're willing to listen, we can form an alliance." "An alliance?" Jace scoffed, struggling to trust a being from a race that had previously hunted him. But beneath the alien's skin, he saw desperation, fear for its own life as well. "Your kind has fought against insurmountable odds before," the alien continued undeterred. "Together, we stand a better chance." Jace hesitated, weighing his options. An alliance with the enemy felt like a treacherous gamble, but the looming threat of the subterranean predator weighed heavily on his mind. "If we're going to team up, I need to know your name," Jace said, his voice steady. "Zarek," the alien replied, a flicker of hope igniting in its eyes. "Then Zarek, we may not have much time," Jace said, a determination hardening in his chest. "Let's prepare for what's coming." As they began to devise a plan, the tension in the air thickened, the shadows closing in around them. In this dark and alien world, Jace had taken a perilous step into the unknown, and the only way forward was together.